Hi guys, welcome back. It's Laura. Today is going to be YouTube marathon day. I'm putting out like 4 videos today because there's just a lot that God has been talking to me about. I've been kind of saving this one on Samuel. Samuel is so important as we think about discipleship with our children. So, and don't get hung up on discipleship as being, this big word. It really just means followers. We're just followers of Jesus. And so we'll talk about in the next video about kind of the how-tos with your young kids, like what that means and how we can start to do that. But I think the most important thing we need to know about discipleship and discipling our kids is that they are never too young. They're never too young to follow Jesus. So this is why 1 Samuel 3 is so important to me, because it talks about Samuel hearing from God for the first time. So Samuel's dedicated to God's service right after he is weaned. Hannah brings him to the temple under Eli to be dedicated to God's service in the temple. And so he's growing up there in the temple. And in verse 3, 1 Samuel verse 3, God comes to Samuel. And Samuel's sleeping on a mat in the temple, and he comes to him and he says, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel gets up and he goes to Eli the priest and he says, what? And Eli says, I didn't call you. Go lay back down, right? So Samuel lays down and he hears it again, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel gets up and he goes to Eli. And as any good parent knows, we're like, go back to sleep, right? He's more patient than that. But he said, I did not call you. Go back to sleep. Go back and lay down. So the third time, God calls to Samuel, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel gets up and he goes to Eli. And Eli says, He's like, God is calling Samuel. And so he says, go back. And when you hear it again, say, speak, Lord. Your servant is listening. There's so much good stuff there to unpack, you guys. So, first of all, Samuel's young. Samuel's young. There's a Jewish theologian, and I will put it in the comments because I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he said that Samuel is, here it is, right here, Josephus believed that Samuel was 11. 11. Can you imagine? Like, if you're, so that'd be like 4th and 5th grade. If your 4th, 5th grader comes up to you and is like, I heard from God and he said this. Because not only did God talk to Samuel, but God gave Samuel some pretty important stuff. He gave him some things to tell Eli about basically his punishment and his family's punishment for what his sons did wrong. So he's got some big, heavy stuff that he needs to tell Eli about. And God trusted him with that at 11. Like, I don't even trust I have a 10-year-old. I'm not sure I even trust my 10-year-old to, like, I don't know. I can't even think of it like a comparison. But like, well, just, if I'm like, oh yeah, go tell this person down the street this, like, would you trust them to be able to remember that and to make it there without like me, anyway. Maybe I just have trust issues. But anyway, Samuel, God trusts him. God trusts him at 11, and he didn't wait to talk to him. That is the most important part to me, is he didn't wait until Samuel had grown up and was 20 and, knew the word of the Lord so well. No, it even says in Samuel 3 that the word of the Lord had not yet come to him. Let me find it real quick so I can read it to you for reals. And forgive me, because you're just going to have to sit with me through this. I do these videos all in one swipe because, one, I don't know how to edit and I stink at it. And 2, I feel like it's just like a talk. Like we're just here talking together. So, I'm finding it. So now Samuel is verse 7. So 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse 7. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. God didn't wait. He didn't wait, right? So he is not waiting to talk to your kids, okay? And to Eli's credit, like Eli didn't say, well, go tell God to tell me because you're not prepared. You don't know, or, oh, I know you think you heard from God, but that's not really what it was. You know, like, to Eli's credit, he was like, oh, okay, God's going to talk to Samuel, and that's awesome. And he could have been defensive about it. He could have been like, I'm the priest here. Why wouldn't he talk to me? You know, or why wouldn't he tell me that directly? And God has all the reasons, you know, and we don't know what they are. But I just love that Eli was leaning into what God was doing and didn't discredit that God had spoken to Samuel. I think there are times, and I know I've done it too, where like a child will come to you and they're like, I feel like God said this, or I really feel tugged or pulled to do this. And, you know, or like, we need to pray for maybe somebody who's dying. And you're like, we do need to pray for that person who's dying, but you need to prepare yourself that they might still die. You know, like, you like take that and discredit it a little bit. Like, maybe God does want to do a miracle in that person's life, and we need to be praying for them. Maybe God is calling your kids to go. I've seen kids do amazing things. You've seen on the news too, that they like do can drives that raise millions of dollars for the local, you know, food bank, or you've seen them do amazing things. And it just takes somebody who believes that they really have heard from God, that they're really called to do those things. That's the bottom line for me. One, that we can't hold them back. We can't not believe them, you know, when they say that they have talked to God. And we also need to give them the opportunity to talk to God. So that's when we have like our weekly Sunday school lesson together as a family, we take a couple minutes and we just sit and listen. And I am expectant. I am expectant that God will speak to my kids. And you know, I think that they feel a little disappointed sometimes when God doesn't, but that's okay, because they are listening. They are practicing building those muscles and practicing that discipline of listening to God and listening expectantly, because we know that he will speak at some point. And then, you know, Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you before you were born. I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. You guys, Jesus is already there from the very beginning. He knows them. He knows them better than we can know them. And we can't discount their capacity for relationship with Jesus. We can't discount their capacity to accept the Holy Spirit and to hear from the Holy Spirit. And that's what I'm going to leave you with. I just want you guys, as you go about discipling your kids, like, really look expectantly at Jesus and how he is going to enter into their lives. And he, you know, just like Samuel, he might tell them something he didn't tell you. And that's okay. That's okay. And we have to just accept that and be okay with that. Pray for your kids. Bless your kids. I'm bubbling now, but what I want you to take away from this is read 1 Samuel 3. You'll be blessed by it. And think about how God has already worked in the life of your kids. You guys are amazing. You're doing great. Keep it up.